Hi guys! So my next read is for the Read Christie 2026 challenge, and the book for June is The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. So the theme is best read in one sitting. I'll probably won't read this in one sitting, so that's it. Okay, so what is this book about? So the peaceful English village of King's Abbot is stunned. The widow Ferrers dies from an overdose of Verona. Now, 24 hours later, Roger Ackroyd, the man she had planned to marry, is murdered. It is a baffling case involving blackmail and death that taxes Hercule Poirot's low grade cells before he reaches one of the most startling conclusions of his career. So that's my next read, and I kind of remember the solution for this one. So oh well. It's still interesting when I remember the solution because I can kind of try to deduce how you should be able to solve this murder mystery. And well, we'll see. Thanks for watching. Bye. Hi guys, this is a review of The Murder of Roger Ackroyd by Agatha Christie. I read this book as part of the Read Christie 2026 challenge, and this was for June. And the theme for June was best read in one sitting, which I didn't do. I listened to it as an audiobook and in multiple sittings. So actually, this wasn't that short, so I don't know why it was for best read in one sitting, because the audiobook was over 7 hours, and most of the Christies are under 7 hours. So anyway, I'm not going to argue about it. So I actually remembered who the killer was, so that was kind of interesting. But I took it as a Columbo episode, so I was looking out for clues and trying to see if you could solve this murder if you didn't know who the killer was, and no, you can't. There's far too much important information revealed at the very end of the story. This is actually something that I've noticed with Christie, that she just keeps things to the very end. Anyway, this is an interesting book. Anyway, it's one of the more famous ones. So this is narrated by Dr. Sheppard, who is the doctor in the story, and he's a neighbor of Poirot, who just retired. And he actually calls him, I listened to the audiobook, and so he calls him Poirot in the beginning. And because Poirot is actually trying to not reveal who he is, and his acquaintance Roger Ackroyd is also keeping things under wraps. So the doctor actually first thinks that he's probably a hairdresser or something like that because of the way he is. So that was actually kind of funny. And otherwise, this is kind of a small town murder mystery, and obviously the person who's getting murdered is Mr. Ackroyd, and so we follow the whole story through the eyes of the doctor. And this is actually very interesting because we get to see an outside perspective of Poirot, and also we learn things through his eyes. And characters were an interesting bunch. There's a stepson, there's a niece, and all of those. It's kind of hard to talk about it without revealing too much, but yeah, it was a fun read. It's actually one of her more famous stories, so if you haven't read it, then I highly recommend it. And otherwise, I gave it 4 stars, so I had a good time. And I also watched the adaptation, and that's going to be my next review, so stay tuned for that. Hi Hi guys, so this is a review of The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, the adaptation. And I watched the Agatha Christie's Poirot series adaptation. I actually didn't know if this was adapted at all. Otherwise, anyway, that's the one you should always watch. It was very interesting because so in the book, it's Dr. Sheppard who narrates the whole story. And in the show, it's Poirot who's reading a diary, but or sort of a journal, but we don't know whose journal it is. So that reveal is kept to the end. And it's very interesting because they often did this in the show, that stories that are normally not centered around Poirot, but our Poirot stories get centered around Poirot, which does make sense. After all, this is a TV show about Poirot. It's actually very interesting how a lot of Poirot stories actually don't center Poirot. And so a lot of things that are in the book are Dr. Sheppard get to Poirot. Another interesting story aspect of this adaptation, an interesting change, is that in this, Poirot isn't just an acquaintance of Mr. Ackroyd, but he's actually a close friend and even an investor in his factory. So in the original story, we don't actually know how Roger Ackroyd made his money. In this, we know that he has a chemical factory outside the village. And so he's providing work. And yeah, he seems to be a chemist himself. And he's a very modern man. His house is very modern. He built it himself. He designed it himself. And actually, in the original story, we don't really know what his house is like. Kind of assume that it's like any other stately manor. Also, there are a few people who are taken out of the show, but they don't really make much of a difference in the book, so that's fine. And also another change is that everyone knows who Poirot is in the village. The doctor knows who he is. So it was kind of a shame that they didn't put in the doctor thinking he's a hairdresser because that would have been funny, but oh well. Another interesting thing about the show is that in the show there's a second murder, which doesn't happen in the book. It kind of makes sense, but oh well. I think they kind of went for more dramatic in the show, while the book was kind of a cozy mystery. Also, the factory is actually featured in the show. So in the beginning and in the end, they both take place in the factory. And the ending is a lot more dramatic than in the book. And also, someone finds out something about a certain other someone that they take great pains in the book to not find out. So, and if you're hearing any construction noises, apparently they're always working on something in the summer here. So it's like, I live in a noisy neighborhood. Anyway, so another thing that was interesting about the show is that they bring in Inspector Japp, who's not in the book. They sort of replace him with the original detective, because in this, like the local detective is a younger man, and he's kind of like, what is this foreigner doing here? But in the book, he's actually, the detective kind of like likes Poirot and knows of him and asks for him to step in and help. So Japp is an interesting addition. I like his character in the show, so that's fun. And they also go to London and visit Poirot's old apartment, and their sort of remains a bit, and Poirot is a lot more emotional in this one. It's very apparent that he thinks he made a mistake in retiring. And it's obvious that he's going to come out of retirement, but this is a show, so this is a TV series. So it makes sense that they put in some elements for continuation. Because in the original Poirot books, Poirot's age and where he is in life is kind of all over the map. So I think Agatha Christie was like, oh, this could be a Poirot story, so let's write a Poirot story. And yeah, so if you read the Poirot books as they came out, then Poirot would be like retired one day, younger another day, so it's like all over the place. And actually, it's sad that she wrote the last Poirot story, Curtain, during the Second World War, but wasn't published until later. Probably she worked that she would do that all the time. One thing that stayed the same is that in both books, Flora Ackroyd is the one who asked Poirot to investigate. And what they also changed, well, at least to me, that I thought the doctor and his sister were a lot younger, so I thought they were middle-aged. It's kind of hinted. And I also thought the doctor had a thing for Flora Ackroyd because of the way he writes about her. He admires her a lot. But in the show, they're a lot older, so that's not a thing. So basically that's it. It was a very good adaptation as always, in spite of the changes, and the changes were understandable. So of course, as always, I recommend you watch the whole Agatha Christie Poirot series with David Suchet, and they're planning on doing another one. Everyone's saying, why are you doing another one? Like, I mean, another adaptation, doing the whole thing all over again. Like, there are a whole bunch of cozy mysteries that they could be adapting. We don't need another Poirot adaptation. It's fine. Leave it alone. You have the perfect one. Don't mess with perfection. So that's my take on that. And thank you for watching. I hope you like this little review. And stay tuned for my other videos. Bye, guys.